So guys, in this video, today I want to talk about basically how I became a carpenter. So how I became a carpenter. So hopefully if someone's ever thinking about becoming a carpenter, this is something you can perhaps consider. So first of all, when I started on my carpentry journey, I was 24. Normally in England, London, that's pretty late to start as a carpenter, believe it or not, because most of the time all the guys in my class were like 16, 15, 16, 17, 18. They were quite young. So I just managed to get the tail end of getting onto into the college, you could say, in apprenticeship, sorry. So I started at pretty late. Some people argue that, they'll be like, no, that's really early. Doesn't matter what age you get into it, as long you can get into it pretty much any age, which is reasonably true to the degree. But obviously your body starts wearing down after a certain time as you get older. So obviously you can't get into it really when you're really, really old. You can, but of course your body's not going to be the same because it's a very physical job, carpentry. So in that aspect, there is a time aspect on it. But yeah, so when I got into it, I was 24, so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I worked in a bar before working as a carpenter. So I worked in a bar for a few years. I worked as a panel beater for a few years with my uncle. I done some other retail jobs. So I was stacking some shelves. I worked in Sainsbury's. I done a mixture of things when I was young because I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. For some people it's very clear, but I didn't really know. So I was trying all different things really to try and figure out where I wanted to go with my life. And my mum is the one who recommended or suggested that I try to go down a carpentry route. So I was like, okay. I didn't really see myself as a carpenter. I was like, I didn't really think of it as a carpenter that I'm gonna, do carpentry. So yeah, so I basically went to college. So I applied to college. I got in through the college as a carpenter, and I started on level one, which is where you start. So level one, you got MVQ, City and Guilds 1 and 2, which is what I was doing. And so I was going to classes, I think twice. I was going to class full time, and which is like 4 or 5 days a week. And then that was it. So I was attending that for about a year and a bit. And I was like, this ain't really enough for me because some of the guys in my class, they were in carpentry roles already. So they were doing the classes and they were doing carpentry outside of the classes. So there's only a few of us that were just basically there all the time who didn't have a carpentry job, who were trying to learn in class. And the thing is with carpentry in class, what they teach you is it's good, but they only teach you up to a certain amount, which sight doesn't really sight teaches you, which the class don't teach you. There's so much more you can learn on sight. And classes teach you, for instance, there is a lot of theory in it, and like geometry. Of course, you got your angles. Some of you remember if you've been to college, like me, you got your dovetails, your half lap, your mortise and tenons. You got so many different joints that you do in class that really you don't really do on site. You don't really do it out on site, these joints. To be fair, like dovetail, you don't really do a dovetail joint. Dovetail joint is basically, it looks like a dovetail, yeah, the joint. And you don't really do these joints on site. If you want to build stuff at home, then you might be doing these joints, but you don't really do these joints on site. So all these things I was learning, I didn't yet know that you wouldn't really use these on site. I thought these are all very handy and very important to learn. Of course, I was wrong. But it was good because I learned, it taught me how to cut straight lines. It taught me how to use, sliding bevel. It taught me how to use a scribing tool, a gauge. It taught me a few things really. And so that's what I was earning in college, as well as other things as well. But I went to college a long time ago. So now we're talking over 10 years, over 15, 18 years, 20 years ago when I went to college. 17 years ago, sorry. So that's a long time, so I don't really remember all of it. But yeah, that's how I started off. And while I was in class, someone recommended, why don't you try to apply for, apprenticeship? And I thought, okay, that's an idea, that's a plan. Someone said it, someone in my class recommended it. So what I did, this is how I done it, guys. Now, if you're thinking about becoming a carpenter and you're like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, there's obviously you can get into apprenticeships. Especially if you're from this country, from the UK. If you're not from this country and you're from international or you're from somewhere else, you can still get into carpentry. But these are some things to consider this is something considered, which is what I done that helped me actually really get into the industry, into the trade, even though I was doing it in college. So I writ to four companies. Four companies I writ to. I was rejected by three, and the last company took me on as an apprentice. So what I wrote in the letter was, "Hi, my name is blah blah blah. I am doing this at college, blah 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 blah. I'm at college and I would like to. I'm thinking about becoming a carpenter, doing this at college, and I would like to try. I'm looking for an apprenticeship. So I'm looking for an apprenticeship program or a company that will take me on to train me so that I can become a carpenter." So this is what I've done anyway. So I wrote to four companies. So three of them rejected me, and the last one took me on, which is called Lovell's Partnership Limited. This is the company that took me on. So the reason why I'm saying this is because if you're thinking about becoming a carpenter and you're not sure how to go about doing it, although you've got Google and there's so much information available, you can go college. If you're thinking about to join an actual company, this is one way you can do it. This is how I did it. Yeah, and it worked for me, worked wonders for me. So when when this company accepted me, I left college. So basically I was the first year. I hadn't finished the first year yet of my college when I started to write to these companies, and this company offered me to come in. I had an interview with them, and then I got accepted for the apprenticeship. So I left college and then started an NVQ with this company. So at first I was doing a City and Guilds, and then I left college to start an NVQ with this company. So I basically started again from the first year, which I didn't mind doing because this apprenticeship was 3 years. 3 years, right? And what it entailed was they would pay for my qualification. They will train me up, have me on site, pay for all my PPE. Tools I had to buy myself. I had to buy the tools myself, if I'm going to be honest with you. But I did get help from the company to, like subsidize things, like slightly cheaper. So that's something that I got help with. So yeah, so I went with this company and they will so what I would do is I would go to college. They would send me to college in Leicestershire. I remember going all the way to Leicestershire to a company called Colville, sorry, to a college called Leicestershire College, yeah, in Colville, where I studied my carpentry and joinery MVQ level 1 and 2 and 3. So I'll go to, this was crazy. When I went to college in Leicestershire, so I would go every 2 to 3 weeks, every third week or fourth week. So every fourth week of the month, third week of the month, I would go away for a week. So potentially I was going away every week in every month. And I met guys from Liverpool, from Manchester, from, I remember from, where was the other one? Birmingham. Where else? I met another guy from London, where I'm from. He was there also. So it was a great experience. Basically, guys, the point I'm trying to get to is it was a great experience. Because these guys were all learning, and they were all doing the same thing that I was doing. They were all on this company. So we're all on this journey. We're all at the same level, and we're all trying to achieve our carpentry and joinery qualification. So it was a really good fun, man. I remember we used to go out for drinks. Go out for drinks, which we were allowed to do, and we were staying in digs. So people would put up their houses. The company had an agreement, an arrangement with the locals in Leicestershire, who would put up their houses. We would call it digs, where we would stay there for the duration while we're studying. We'll stay in their rooms often, and we'll get fed. We'll get dinner, breakfast, and we had a place to sleep. And oh my God, I remember we stayed at one. We had a guy who we stayed at his house. Now, this doesn't have any gauging to do with anything. Well, actually, it does a little bit, but he told us that you could stay here. But bear in mind, we're quite young. I was like 24. I wasn't very young, but I was young for a guy, a young man. And he let us stay in his bedroom, not in his bedroom, sorry, in a room. We had all had our own rooms. Some of us will stay in the same room with two beds, of course, And there was a room where he had literally a stack of pornographic movies, man. He had pure, like, them times old DVDs. It's not about just going on the internet now. And, if you go on the internet now, anything's accessible. You can easily find stuff that you shouldn't find on the internet. And he had a stack of DVDs like this, of just pornographic stuff in this room. And he would basically tell us, you can go in this room and there's some films over there. You can watch them. You can access any of these films if you want. And it's all available to you to watch if you want. Of course, now, we didn't know what was in these films until we started to look inside the drawers. And then we started seeing that there wasn't even any ordinary films in there. It was just pure pornographic material. It was just pure, strictly pornographic stuff. It was just, it was actually really funny. And a lot of the boys loved it. They would go in there and they'd be like, yeah, let's go in there, boys. We're going to go and watch, some movies, you know what I mean? They'll have a laugh. But me personally, it wasn't really my thing. I mean, to be fair, if I wanted to do that, I would do that, in my own home if I was going to do that. In my own surroundings. I didn't need to go somewhere who I didn't even really know the person, who I knew we were staying at his house for only a period of time to go and watch pornographic material. And it was just bizarre because he had this room with one chair and it was just really weird. To be honest, now that when I think back about it now, it's actually really, 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 really dodgy, to be fair, because we're all boys. He was a guy, and why would you allocate a certain room for us just to watch adult material? And we're all young boys, you know what I mean? And I don't know, there might have been a hidden camera in there. Some of the other boys went in there. They probably did do their thing in there, watching the films. And you don't know, we could have been getting filmed for, he could be filming people, filming us. So yeah, that was an experience. But yeah, guys, back to the subject. Back to the subject is, so this company took me on and we were staying digs. And yeah, we would get to go up there. So we'll be at college for a whole week. And then we'll come back down. So everything was paid for. The company paid for everything. They paid for travel. They paid for food. They paid for accommodation. They paid for everything. And it was a really good way to learn because you would learn on site and then you would do the theory at college. And then you learn on site and then you do the theory at college. So a lot of the things you learn on site, of course, 70% of them weren't covered in the course. But again, it was still handy and still good to do because you could correlate the two information together. And when they did match, they did match. Basically, it was good, however, every way you look at it. So that's one way, guys. If you're thinking about becoming a carpenter and joiner, that's one way you can do it. So one way, of course, is to go to college and do it that way. Do City Guilds, MVQ, which is what it is nowadays, and it also MVQ based, which means it's site based, which mean MVQ means that it's evidence based. So that's essentially what MVQ is really. It's evidence based. So you be doing your qualification, and they'd want to see proof and evidence of you doing your qualification. So for me, they had to see it. So that's one way you can do it, guys. Yeah, is write to companies. So write to companies, and even if you get rejected by 1 or 2 or 3, just keep writing. There's hundreds of companies out there. I'm talking like big companies, big companies. Here in UK, we have huge companies. We have a lot of them. There's St. James. There's Lovell Partnership Limited. There is a number of companies that you could write to. Balfour Beatty is huge. Balfour Beatty is another big company. Absolutely colossal company, Balfour Beatty. St. James is another one. There's so many, but my brain's gone a bit blank. But if you look on Google and you look at all the so type in Google construction companies in London or in the UK, or big construction companies in the UK, type in Google and then write to these companies and try and apply for apprenticeship. So if you're slightly older and you're thinking about getting into carpentry, you can, this is what I recommend you guys can do also, is you go to college and then you just approach building sites. You can approach, approach companies. You tell them you're slightly older, you tell them your age and that you just wanted to be sort of like a carpenter's mate. And you just want to just learn from someone. So the old school way is to learn from someone. So normally the traditional way is to be put with someone who's mature. So ideally someone in their 40s above, who's been doing the carpentry for many, many years and he's very experienced. And you will stay with that one person and he will teach you all he knows. So you just watch him and learn from him as he's on site and you just pick up all of it. That is how it used to be. But nowadays it's different. You're jumping from one person to the next. You're jumping from one site to the next to the next. So it's very difficult sometimes to really pick up the trade in the way it should be picked up. There are good things about it, but there's also bad things about that. Because if you stay with someone who's mature, who's been doing the carpentry for a long time, he gets to tell you the ins and outs, the things that you should do, the things that you shouldn't do. Of course, this guy's experienced, he's been doing it for a very long time, so he knows what he's talking about. Now, if you keep jumping around from site to site, from person to person, you don't really settle into a learning way, into your own learning style. You're constantly adapting, constantly changing, so you never really find your groove, as it were, as they say. But at least you're still learning. So even if you don't stick with someone, just one person, get yourself out there. Write to companies, get known. You got nowadays now, you got LinkedIn, you've got Facebook, you've got so many platforms, you got Instagram, you got all these different platforms, and you can just write. I'm this age, even if you're older, say if you're 30s, if you're in your 40s, man, it doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't really matter about if you're in the 30s or if you're in your 40s. If you want to do carpentry, do it. There is money to be made in it. It is a physical job, but it is a good job. It's very rewarding. It's very satisfying because you look at your work after and you say, wow, I done that. You can see all this wood behind me. All my house has got wooden cladding. I'm going to put it in one video and I'm going to show you my flat and what I've done in another video. But in this video, really, I just wanted to talk about carpentry work. And if you're thinking about getting into carpentry, if you're a young person in your teens or even if you're older, these are just some things to consider. So go for it, guys. Write to companies, put yourself out there. You can even approach someone, go to building sites. Now, a lot of people are not very confident. Yeah, the English might not be good. So some guys out there from international, from Europe, they might be from other countries. So the English is not really good. But if you can approach some companies, so my recommendation on what I would do if my English wasn't good. First, start taking English lessons, and then once I start taking these English lessons, I will approach the company or the person and let them know that I am taking English lessons, so that they can see I'm taking initiative to try to improve my English. And then I'll tell them I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, carpentry, I'm looking for this role, I'm this age, blah, 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 blah. In fact, you don't even have to even mention your age to the company. If you feel that your age is going to hold you back, if you're slightly older, like 30s, you know, even late 20s even, and you feel your age is going to, you know, it's going to hinder you, don't talk about your age at all. Just mention the fact that you want to do carpentry, and this is what you're doing to become a carpenter. So you're learning better English, you've worked with someone, your uncle before, blah, 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 you know how to do this. Put all these things down when you're applying for carpentry. There's nothing really such thing as getting it wrong. It's like you have to advertise yourself. You have to let people know what you're about. Like I said to you before, even though I'm born here and I'm from England, UK, I still got rejected 3 times, you know, before I got the 4th time to company. I still got rejected. If you get rejected, don't be disheartened, guys. Don't be depressed. This is part of the journey. You have to keep pushing on, keep pressing on. If your English is not good and you can't write, get someone to write for you. If you can't get someone to write, think about ChatGPT even. Just think about different ways for people to get yourself out there, people to know who you are. So yeah, guys, that's been my journey of how I became a carpenter, and I hope some of you can take this information and hopefully apply it to yourselves. You know, as I mentioned as well, there's so many building sites around London. Even if you're not in London and you live outside of London, you can approach building sites outside of London and, you know, ask to speak to the manager, the supervisor, tell them who you are, tell them what your interests are. The point I'm making, guys, is don't stop. Do not stop if you get rejected. Don't let that put you down, you know. Keep going. I'm telling you, eventually the door will open. Someone will take you on. Someone will give you a shot. Someone will give you a chance. But the thing is, you have to keep trying. You have to put yourself out there. You can't sit back and, you know, just be like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and not do anything about it. Take the steps. Take these steps that I said, and you will get something 100%. You're 100% guaranteed you will get something. It's just how the universe works. You just keep pushing forward and you will get something, guys. So, guys, I hope this video you found this video helpful. Stay tuned, because I'm going to be uploading a lot more videos about things, you know, not just carpentry based, but there's going to be other videos talking about things that I've kind of gone through and how I overcame them and how you can overcome them too. So stay tuned, guys. This is all free information, and I hope this video you found helpful. Leave a comment if you have any comments you want to share with me, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Peace.